Chapter 11. Whisper of Betrayal. The dawn light was pale as it crept through the eastern trees, casting long shadows over Azural's camp. Her group had grown. What had once been a scattered band of rebels was now a small but determined army, a gathering of villagers, fighters and survivors who had been emboldened by news of Vuva's weakness. Yet, as their numbers swelled, Azural felt an unease stir deep within her, a tension that coiled tight in her chest. The air felt heavier this morning, charged with a strange stillness, as if the land itself were holding its breath. Azural's instincts prickled, warning her of something amiss, but she couldn't place it. She scanned the camp, noting the early risers sharpening weapons, trading supplies, and murmuring quietly among themselves. Soraya was speaking with a group of scouts, while Talvar gathered the latest reports from their sentries. She knew the importance of rallying her allies, of building trust and unity, but this morning the whispers among her followers were different, hushed and strained, as if something sinister lurked just beneath the surface. Soraya approached her, a look of concern shadowing her face. "Azural, there's something you should know." Her voice was low, careful, as if choosing her words with deliberate caution. Some of the scouts reported strange activity in the forest last night. They believed they saw figures moving along the perimeter, cloaked and moving in unnatural silence. I fear Vuva's agents are watching us. Azural's jaw tightened, the fire within her flaring instinctively at the thought. "He's been aware of our movements for some time, Soraya, but if he's sending spies this close, he may be preparing to strike." Soraya nodded, her gaze intense. "Or he's testing us, watching for weakness. He knows we're gaining strength, and he'll want to crush us before we become a true threat. We must be careful, Azural. Vuva is cunning, and he will seek any opportunity to divide us from within." As Soraya spoke, Talvar joined them, his expression grim. "There's something else," he said, glancing warily over his shoulder. "I've been hearing rumors, whispers among the camp. Some of the new recruits. They're questioning your leadership, Azural. They're saying you're too reckless, that you're taking us all to certain death." Azural's fist clenched, the anger simmering beneath her skin. She had expected doubt, expected resistance from those who had been hardened by years of living under Vuva's shadow. But to know that it had taken root here among her own allies stung deeply. "Do you know who started these rumors?" she asked, her voice quiet but steely. Talvar hesitated. "It's hard to say. They spread like wildfire, but it's possible that one of Vuva's agents slipped in among the new recruits, stoking the flames of doubt. It's the kind of tactic he favors, undermining trust, planting seeds of discord." Azural took a slow breath, forcing herself to remain calm. "Then we need to root out the source before it spreads further. Vuva wants us divided. He knows that if we fall apart from within, we won't need him to crush us." A call rose from the far end of the camp, and one of the scouts hurried over, her face pale with worry. "Azural, you need to come with me. There's something you need to see." Azural exchanged a wary glance with Soraya and Talvar, then followed the scout who led them through the camp to the eastern edge where a small crowd had gathered, murmuring in tense voices. As the group parted, Azural's heart clenched at the sight before her. On the ground, bound and gagged, lay a cloaked figure. His clothes were torn, his face bruised and bloodied, though he bore the unmistakable insignia of Vuva's followers, the sun split by shadow. The man glared up at her, defiant even in his captivity. One of the fighters stepped forward, a grim expression on his face. "We found him sneaking through the camp just before dawn. He claims he's here to deliver a message, but he wouldn't say more." Azural crouched down, meeting the man's gaze. "You're a fool to come here," she said coldly. "If Vuva sent you to spy on us, you won't live to report back." The man smirked, his voice a hoarse whisper. "I come with more than a message. I come with the truth." His gaze swept over the crowd, his eyes gleaming with a dark satisfaction. "Do you know who she truly is?" he said, his voice loud enough for those around to hear. "Do you know what burns within her?" Azural's fist tightened, the fire within her sparking in response to his taunts. "You're wasting your breath," she said sharply. "Whatever lies Vuva has filled you with, they will die with you." But the man laughed, a low, mocking sound. "You think you're the savior, don't you? The one who will end his reign, who will bring light to this land." He spat blood onto the ground. "But you are his greatest weapon, Azural. He has marked you. You carry his flame, his corruption, even if you refuse to see it. You may think you're free, but he already owns you." A murmur rippled through the gathered fighters, faces turning toward Azural with a mix of doubt and fear. The man's words were poison, meant to turn her allies against her, to sow distrust in the very heart of her cause. She could feel the weight of their stares, the whisper of their doubts taking root. Soraya stepped forward, her voice sharp. "Enough. This man is here to undermine us, to plant seeds of fear. He speaks nothing but lies." But the man's gaze remained on Azural, his eyes gleaming with a twisted satisfaction. "You know it's true," he said, his voice low and insidious. "You feel it in your blood, don't you? The fire he gave you, the power that burns within. You can't control it, and when it consumes you, it will consume them all." Azural's heart pounded, the anger and fear twisting within her. She felt the fire flare in response, an instinctive reaction to the threat, to the doubt pressing in from all sides. The flames licked at her skin, and for a moment she feared that he was right, that the fire was not hers to control, that it was Vuva's corruption buried deep within her. But she pushed the thought aside, clenching her fists and letting the flames die. She straightened, meeting the man's gaze with steely resolve. "You may come here with your lies, your poison, but I will not let you spread fear among those who stand with me. Your words mean nothing here." The man sneered. "We shall see. Vuva's shadows are everywhere, Azural. He knows your every move, your every weakness. You are already his." Azural felt a surge of anger, a pulse of fire that demanded release, but she forced herself to remain calm. "Take him to the edge of the camp," she ordered, her voice steady. "Let him see the strength of our numbers, the resolve of those who stand against Vuva. And when he sees that his words have failed, send him back with a message." Talvar's brow furrowed, but he nodded, understanding her intent. The guards led the man away, his twisted laughter echoing through the camp as he was taken out of sight. Azural watched him go, her heart heavy with the weight of his words. Even as she pushed the doubt away, his accusations lingered in her mind, unsettling and insidious. She felt Soraya's hand on her shoulder, grounding her. "His words are designed to break you, Azural," she said softly, "to twist your strength into fear. Do not let him sow that poison within you." Azural took a deep breath, nodding as she steadied herself. "I know, but he's right about one thing. Vuva knows us better than we know him. If we're going to win, we need to understand his tactics, his weaknesses." Talvar joined them, his gaze filled with a quiet resolve. "Then let's strike first. We have scouts, allies we've yet to call upon. If we can gather more information, we can plan a strike that will weaken him even further." Azural met their eyes, her resolve hardening. "Then that's what we'll do. We'll move against him, expose his shadows, weaken his forces. We will not be intimidated, and we will not stop until he is gone from this land." They spent the remainder of the morning preparing, gathering supplies and rallying the fighters. The tension from the encounter lingered, but Azural saw the fear in her allies' eyes replaced by determination, a fierce defiance that burned brighter than before. Whatever shadows Vuva cast, they would face them together, unbroken. By midday they set out, their numbers swelling as word spread among the surrounding villages of Vuva's growing vulnerability. Allies joined their ranks, hunters from the forests, warriors from hidden strongholds, villagers whose families had suffered under his shadow. Their force was small but determined, a coalition of people united by loss, by anger, and by a shared hope for freedom. As they travelled, Azural kept her focus on the path ahead, her gaze fixed on the distant mountains where Vyuva's final strongholds awaited. She knew the road would be fraught with danger, that his agents would be watching, waiting to strike at the first sign of weakness. But she also knew that she could not let fear guide her. In the quiet of the journey, she found herself walking beside Talvar, who cast her a sideways glance. "You handled that spy well," he said, his tone respectful. "Vyuva's words are sharp, but you proved to everyone that your fire isn't one to be controlled." Azural looked ahead, her voice quiet but firm. "I've seen what his shadows can do. I refuse to let them take root here, in the hearts of those who believe in me. I will not let him break us." Talvar nodded, a faint smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. "Then we'll see this through, Azural, all of us." As night fell, their band made camp in a dense forest, the trees towering above them, casting long shadows over their gathering. Azural watched as her allies settled, their spirits high despite the day's tension, their faces lit by the glow of small fires. She felt their trust, their hope, and she knew that the road ahead, however dark, was one she would not walk alone. And as she stared into the flames, she felt the fire within her settle, strong and steady, a fierce resolve that Vyuva's shadows could not reach. The time would come soon. She would face Vyuva, not as his weapon, but as the fire that would bring an end to his reign. And when the moment came, she would ensure that his darkness was reduced to nothing but ashes.